Thanks for tuning in to today's show. This is the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. On today's episode, I have Joe and Chris with me, and we discuss Dynasty Buys, Sells, and Holds. So stay tuned to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. I'm joined tonight by Mr. Joe Capozzi and Mr. Chris Felice down there. Can't orient my hand on the camera. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Good.
Doing good.
Halfway through the week.
Yes. Hump day.
Closer to football. 1 week closer to football.
Oh, so close.
It's
like 3 months
quick.
away.
We got OTAs. We got things coming up. I'm so excited. After we did our rookie draft, that's kind of where it hit, and I'm like, all right, now it's football time. Not that it's never football time in our dynasty league. We're always talking, but that's kind of where it sets in, where it's like, all right, finally we're here. Let's go. But on today's show, we're going to do a dynasty buy, sell, and hold for everyone that's looking at their roster, making some moves, getting into the 2024 season. It's always time to look at your team, look at the other league, the rest of your league, kind of figure out, are you buying these guys? Like, what kind of move should I make to set myself up, whether you're rebuilding or if you are going for it. You got to take a long, hard look at your team. And a lot of times that's kind of where it goes. Things are going to change between now and September, but you put in the work now and it sets you up for success. So keep grinding, keep working. Before we get into it, if everyone could do us a huge favor, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, follow the show. We're on Twitter or X at HeroesFF. You can follow the show on YouTube at youtube.com/@theheroesff. We have a Discord, which you can look at on our X account. There's a link there, and I will also post a link again. Join the community here. We're trying to push these things out and get you as ready as you can be for the 2024 season and beyond. So what do you guys say? You ready to jump into some dynasty buys?
Yeah.
I'm always
so.
buying. Always buying.
Always buying.
Always
Always
buying.
buying.
All right. So, Joe, why don't you start us off here with dynasty buys?
So for my dynasty buy right now, it's going to be Mr. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end on the Buffalo Bills. I think he is severely undervalued right now. He finished 2023 as the tight end 14, and you got to think that was also playing with Dawson Knox a lot. I think he kind of cemented himself as the clear-cut starting tight end there now. And with Stephon Diggs gone, granted we have Coleman there now, but there's no clear wide receiver one. And I think Dalton Kincaid fills that role for the Bills. I think he's going to be Josh Allen's go-to. And I'm really excited for him on the season, especially if you're in a tight end premium league. Makes me even more excited to buy on him. But even if you're just in a half-point super flex or half-point PPR, full-point PPR, I think Dalton Kincaid's going to see a lot of targets this season. And I would be very happy to buy him low right now before he gets that sort of Sam Laporta high, crazy. Like Sam Laporta, don't get me wrong, Sam Laporta is amazing, but he's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Where you can get Dalton Kincaid right now for pretty cheap compared to some of these like Travis Kelce or some of these other crazy starting tight ends. So I'm real excited on him. What do you guys think about Dalton Kincaid as a dynasty buy?
All aboard.
I was so confused. I'm like, what is that?
There's a train going by your house. You didn't know?
Yeah. Oh, God, my house. No.
I sent the train there for you.
Damn.
But no, I agree 100%. And I don't know if you guys saw the news too. Khalil Shakir apparently was injured in practice. I saw the news blurb a little bit before. I know there was
the rise of Keon Coleman.
A little trade ski going between you two. It's still early, but yeah, I don't think it was anything major. It was just more like he went up for a catch and landed kind of hard. So You're gonna get those. Now is the time between now and August where you're just like, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, please don't get hurt, because that's the one thing that completely ruins your season before the preseason football injuries. But yeah, I agree. I think he's going to lead the Buffalo Bills in targets and receptions this year. What about you, Chris?
I really like that pick. That pick for the Dynasty Buys. I definitely threw so we actually have a little document here on our side, and Joe just joined, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to be a surprise? You want me to put it down there?" And I am pleasantly surprised. Yeah, I like this a lot actually. I feel like you can definitely get this guy right now at a low cost, especially with there's a lot of stuff going on in Buffalo that leads to this uncertainty for a lot of people. Stephon Diggs is gone. Josh Allen, who's he going to throw to? They just drafted this new guy. You have two young guns at your wide receiver slots. Where does Dalton Kincaid fit in? I feel like this is, and if you're confident, I feel like this is a great move. I would definitely do it if I could get him for cheap enough. I'm thinking second, third, something.
It's going to cost you first, most likely.
Well, Keep Trade Cut has him as a 1.7, close to a 1.7, late first, early second pick. So I think you could get him if you throw a second round at someone and maybe a fourth or something. I think you could get him, especially if they have a couple other tight ends but he didn't finish. He finished good. He finished the tight end 14, but he didn't finish in the top 5 or anything. So I think you could probably get away with getting him for a second round draft pick.
Okay.
Dallas Goedert and a second for Dalton Kincaid. You doing it?
That might be a little. I do like Goddard a little bit. He had a good season before he got hurt. I think.
I'm just thinking it's a crowded room now.
Yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Philadelphia where Kincaid has a clear path to being the guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's got only 2 points of competition. Goddard has everybody to do it.
I would do the trade. I would do the trade. I'd rather have.
I think I would do
Dalton
the trade
Kincaid.
also. I think I would try to do a third instead of a second, but if it has to be the second, I think I'd still do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Chris. Buy number 2.
All right. My buy, it's everyone's favorite current contract interesting situation. I've got Brandon Aiyuk. I truthfully could probably go either way. I feel like Debo and Brandon Aiyuk could honestly be in this list for the same reason. They're both looking for contracts. I mean, just today, Aiyuk sat out of practice today, holding out for a contract extension. I'm sure everyone has probably realized that there's a very good chance that the future of the 49ers only has one of these 2 players on it. And if you had to take a bet, you're going to bet on the younger guy who looks pretty much just as good as Deebo Samuel, is what I'm just going to say here. And staying in that team, which is a fit, everything is going for them right now. They have all the pieces. We've been saying that for a while. Who knows how much longer they'll have that. But if this guy gets the extension, I mean, it doesn't really matter if he's the wide receiver 1 on that team or the 2. The way they go through that offense, you're still getting wide receiver 1 caliber points out of this guy every single week. I'd buy into this guy right now. I feel like the whole contracts thing might be scaring the owners. So if you can maybe get this guy for a first, maybe some more extra compensation on the side, I would take it.
Interesting.
You don't like it?
No, I do like it because I do think that the contract negotiation, I personally don't think he's going to stay on the 49ers, but Aiyuk is such a tremendous talent that I think I'd like him almost anywhere. So
except for the Giants.
I mean, even I wouldn't like that because I own neighbors, but I think I would like Aiyuk. Ayuk's just that type of player that I think he's going to do well in any system. And if you can get him for the cheap right now, he's still young. He's got plenty of years ahead in his career. Yeah, I like that pick.
You're not. You're muted.
Would help if I hit the unmute button.
There you
Technical
go.
difficulties. I really do like Aiyuk. I think I like him more than Debo, just because Debo's a little bit older. I know one of these guys, either this year or definitely next year, one of these guys is gone from this team. The San Francisco 49ers are not going to be able to pay both of them. So if they extend Aiyuk, Debo's gone either this year or next year. So I think now is a good time to buy Aiyuk because, like you said, he goes to any other team. It's kind of like the T. Higgins thing for me, maybe a little bit less so. I think Aiyuk is a little bit better than T. Higgins. But another situation, he could be the wide receiver one on another team. Maybe not some of the top guys, but let's say he goes to the Chiefs next year. Immediately, I think he's the wide receiver one.
Instantaneously wide receiver one.
He is that much talent, and getting him for, I think, a discount right now. I mean, he might be someone you got to pay a little bit more for than some other guys, but I think it's going to be worth the investment. So I agree with that pick. I would like
Keep Trade Cut has him as like equal to a 1 point, like the pick 5 in the first round of this year. So what is that? That's probably like a Dunze. So would you rather a Dunze or Aiyuk?
I would personally prefer Aiyuk.
I think I also prefer Aiyuk.
I think it's a clean sweep. I think Odunze is going to be great, but he's an unproven rookie where you have a clear-cut stud.
Yeah.
I would take Aiyuk.
Not to mention that he has to compete with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. I mean, I know Keenan Allen's old, but DJ Moore is only 6 years into the league. He has time. He could be there for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think it's a clean sweep. Aiyuk he's just that talented. And I know the efficiency metrics for him are a little bit weird because he is very efficient on his targets, but it's also the system and talent. I mean, you earn targets, and he has earned targets every year he's been on that team, and more so every year he's gotten better. So I think he's just that talented. So I'm willing to pay a premium to get Aiyuk on my team, especially if I'm competing this year. So, all right. So now my guy here, I'm going to go with a guy I really like, and I don't want anyone to give up on. It's not time to give up on him. Last year's number 1 rookie wide receiver as far as draft capital in the 2023 draft, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Started last year.
You scared me, Matt. I thought you were going to say someone else.
I'm not going to go Quentin Johnston, even though I'm still holding out hope with him.
No. But... I thought you were going to say Jordan Addison, and I was going to.
Oh, no. We'll get to Addison.
We'll keep going. I like this pick.
Yeah. So Jackson Smith-Njigba drafted as the first wide receiver last year's draft to the Seattle Seahawks, who for the second year in a row just don't like us having nice things. They like to get players that just really twist the knife into us as fantasy managers. But looking back at Jackson Smith-Njigba last year, he was buried on the depth chart behind DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who's now another year older. I know they just signed him to a 2-year extension, mostly a cap move just to kind of stay under the salary cap and free up a little cash. But he was also injured in preseason. He played the first couple weeks of the season with a cast on his wrist. So he wasn't really getting full reps in the offense at that point. And then we started to see him pick up a little bit. Now, fast forward to this season, the Seahawks addressed the elephant in the room, which was the offensive line that could not protect Geno Smith at all. When Geno Smith is protected, his numbers are phenomenal. So I think that really helps play into Jackson Smith-Njigba taking the second-year leap. He's going to be one of my favorite draft picks in redraft, especially just because I think last year he didn't have the worst season. Not the best season, obviously, but I think there's so much room for his upside, and where he's going to go is going to be so much lower than I think where his ceiling is going to be. So I'm willing to take him. Right now, he is drafted as the wide receiver 26 in Dynasty. I think his ceiling could be a top 15 wide receiver in the right situation. Maybe closer to top 20, but still, it's still a value. I think Lockett being a year older is going to aid into the Seahawks, giving him more opportunity. And I think once given that opportunity, I think he's just going to start shining. So I am very gung-ho with JSN. Buy him now before the price goes up.
Yeah, I agree with this. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba. He showed a lot of flashes towards the end of last season of just being that guy. And Keep Trade Cut has him as a late first this year. You can get him for straight up.
I
It's
would do that in a heartbeat.
very close to the 1.10 for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I would also do that in a heartbeat. Some other players they have them valued at that you could trade for. They have, where is it? That's the wrong one. They have, let me get the first out of there. So DJ Moore is valued very close to him. Kyle Pitts and Kyron Williams. I think I'd rather Jackson Smith over DJ. I think I'd rather Jackson Smith over Kyle Pitts, even though I'm a believer. And I definitely would like him over Kyron Williams. So I agree with that. I would definitely be buying on Jackson Smith, especially if you can get him at the low right now. Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not like the craziest over JSN personally. I definitely see like the appeal. These DK Tyler Lockett are most definitely waning, which will lead to JSN eventually coming in as the guy at some point here. It's a little tough for me to say like, oh yeah, go all in on this guy when truthfully I don't fully know what it's going to look like when he has a full season as like the guy going in there and not behind two other good wide receivers. I would definitely say like if you can get him for personally, I'm not the biggest Kyle Pitts enthusiast. If you can trade him for Kyle Pitts, I would say sure, go for it. DJ probably yeah. Kyron I'd be a little more hesitant on. If I'm like in a win now situation, solely because I know he's gonna do good at least this year.
Blake Corum.
I'm assuming that that's not gonna happen. If it does, that'd be really funny. I don't have any Kyron Williams stock, so I don't really have to worry about that. So I'm allowed to go on this angle, but yeah, he's put into the crowd. But yeah, I like it. I'm not I'm not the biggest fan, but it's good.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not like jumping out my window to get Jackson Smith and Jigba, but if I can get him for the 1.10, I think I'd like that.
I'll jump out the window. It's fine. I'll take him. I'll take the full leap.
Well,
not saying second story window, but
on that note, jumping out windows. Why don't we jump out the window to sell some guys?
All right, we got Dynasty Sells here, and I gotta do it.
Get him out of here.
That's what we're doing. Probably my favorite clip of all time. I can't wait. All right, Joe. Let's go to Dynasty Sells. Who you got?
My Dynasty Sell, and there's a lot of guys like I could think for this right now because there's a lot of panic going on. So unless my sell is James Conner, running back on the Cardinals. He is getting up there in years, especially for a running back. You also have Kyler there, who has been known to run the ball on occasion. And they just got Trey Benson, who I know me and Matt, I don't know about you, Chris, are pretty high on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would make me, as a James Conner owner, worried. Don't get me wrong. I still think James Conner is the starter this season. But unless you are in a win now scenario, if you have anyone else that you could fill in this running back position, I'd be selling him as the starter while he still has the job before Trey Benson starts stealing those touches away from him. So that is why he is my sell. If I had him, I'd be looking to move him right now.
I definitely like it. I was waiting to have to fight you on some of the other guys. I know you have a few others that we probably disagree on, but
I was between him and Tyjae Spears, so I went with James Conner.
Ooh, Tyjae Spears is interesting too. James Conner.
I don't know if you saw that report about Tyjae.
I did not. Do tell.
So I've seen some reports that they really like Pollard over there, and they're making Tyjae Spears more of a receiving back.
Which isn't terrible for fantasy.
If you're in a full point PPR league, I could see it. Half point, and no point, definitely, But
yeah, I do agree with the James Conner pick. I mean, he does have value, mainly for a contender this year. You could probably get him he could be a buy for a contender, just because if you need depth only, like I wouldn't expect the world from him, just because he is a little older. and Benson's there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you and kind of disagree. I'd say if you're in a desperate win now scenario, like if you're Josh in our league and your team's ancient and you need to win the season, sure. If I was a contender and I had, there's some other running backs out there that I think you could get for similar value, a little bit younger, and I think I'd rather take shots on those guys over James Conner.
As someone who like has been trying to look for running backs to get, right? Because I only have 3 right now, and I'd love like the depth like there. I only have 3 like actual people I know are gonna
I
start.
got a couple. Come over.
I look at James Conner, and I gotta be honest with you, I'd much rather have other people. Mostly because I'm like sitting there, it's like, man, I know you're gonna like do okay, but like there's a chance you don't do that great, and then you're probably gonna go away for the future. It's like, I'm not asking for a lot. Like if I'm going to like put all my chips into a basket somewhere, right? I'm looking at like some other stuff to throw all my eggs in, like a Derrick Henry. I know he's old, he's waning, but it's Derrick Henry. I'd rather take the risk on Austin Eckler, actually. I'd rather take that risk hoping that he returns to some form of relevancy because I know he's done it in the past. James Conner is just, in my opinion, James Conner. He is good, but I feel as if he, isn't in that like top 10 echelon, or like top 15, top 10 echelon, in my opinion.
See, yeah, I agree with that. I would put him as like, a low end RB2, low to mid range RB2 on a dynasty roster where you're not relying on him, but he's still going to get you something. So probably closer to like 8 to 12 points on average per week. But unless he scores, you're not going to be too thrilled. So,
Agreed.
All right, Chris, who is your sell?
My sell is Michael Pittman on the Colts. I have a couple reasons as to why. Reason number 1, you have all the young guys behind him: Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell. They're there. I'm not saying they're going to take over by any means this year, but I'm saying that perhaps in the future that may be possible. Currently, there are contract holdouts right now that he's going through. And I just want to read off some stats actually that I have. So I'm doing this in our half PPR league setting, but I imagine in a full PPR league, these aren't much better. In the past, so he's been in the league for 4 years now. I'm not going to count 2019, I believe it is. No, 2020. I'm not going to count 2020 because I don't think he played the full season. He finished like 83rd. I'm not going to count that. In 2021, he finishes the wide receiver 15. In 2022, he finishes the wide receiver 23. 23. And then in this past year, he was wide receiver 15. He has never gone above wide receiver 15. But I feel like that because of the hype, because of the offense, because you can use the fact that Richardson got hurt and maybe that perhaps hampered his performance, you could use that to sell him for more than he might actually be worth. And that's what I'm going for here. If he doesn't end up on the Colts in the future, I don't think he's going to be bad by any means. I have a weird feeling he's going to end up in a Jalen Waddle-like situation. A guy that sits behind some sort of insane player for a decent of his career, and when he's not there, he's just probably top 12-ish wide receiver, in which case I would love to sell him now at some sort of value where I feel like, I could be like, oh, but, the offense is going. He's like the guy. They have a lot of people to kind of get people off his back or whatever. That's what I'm trying to be selling for here. And that's why I'm in the future. I don't know if I'm too confident he'll ever reach a peak where you would want him to start as a wide receiver, one where I feel like a lot of people thought that he was going to go.
Yeah, it really comes down to me. How good is Anthony Richardson passing? We know he can rush, but if he's pretty good at passing, don't even get me started with this.
I'm laughing because I see Joe laughing.
if Anthony Richardson, because last year we had Gardner Minshew, who he's fun, he's cool, but I don't think he's the best thrower of the football. So if we can get Anthony Richardson to be serviceable, I think Michael Pittman can exceed the wide receiver 15, but that's also a risk you're taking. for obvious reasons that I know Joe is probably going to bring up. But if not, Anthony Richardson only played 4 games last year, or 2 games, whatever. Right now, he's going as a wide receiver 17 in Dynasty, going ahead of DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Nico Collins. I feel like I'd take him over DJ Moore definitely, just because I'm nervous about having a rookie rookie quarterback throwing to a wide receiver. But I feel like I'd rather have DK Metcalf and probably Nico Collins with CJ Stroud. But I can kind of see a glimmer of hope, but it's a risk either way. What are your thoughts on Pittman, Joe?
I think this is the first one that I disagree with, and I think I'm going to bring up our co-host, Mr. Richie Kopech, who says wide receiver ones win you seasons. Michael Pittman is a wide receiver 1.
Sure,
It doesn't matter
yeah.
if you have Anthony Richardson in there, who is good when he's not dying, which is often, or you have Gardner Minshew in there. Michael Pittman has proved no matter who's throwing the ball to him, he's going to produce fantasy numbers. You love to see it. He's the clear-cut guy there. I like Josh Downs, but it's Michael Pittman's show. Yeah, I personally would be holding on Michael Pittman, but I could also see I could also see you wanting to sell him because he is valued so high. But I think it's justified value that he's so consistent. He might not be that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson guy, but I do like having the wide receiver 1.
He's kind of like a guy that I was talking about when we were doing the recording the other day about how I don't have all these wide receiver 1s for fantasy.
No, but he's an
they're
actual
still
wide
valuable.
receiver 1. You don't.
Yeah, I was talking about wide receiver, not having wide receiver 1s in fantasy. They still hold value. Jalen Waddle is a perfect example of that. He is the wide receiver 2 on his team and a wide receiver 2 in fantasy in most cases, but he has the upside to be a wide receiver 1. But it's fine. It's fine. We don't have to agree. It's all right.
Let's hold. How about we hold?
I can understand your
I
argument.
still gotta sell a guy.
I just disagree with it.
Oh, oh God, you do.
Oh my God! I gotta make some.
I'm so
I gotta
sorry.
sell.
Who's
No,
Matt?
I have to
Matt,
sell.
Matt, you're always selling your entire team. Every time I go on Sleeper, it's like
Hold-
Matt has sold. Matt for sale. Matt's entire
Matt,
team.
what are you selling today?
Who's for sale today, Matt?
For sale today is George Pickens of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, hot take.
Yeah, let's start. It shouldn't be a hot take, but maybe it is. Maybe it is because I see
we agree on a lot of things about him, but I also feel like you are a George Pickens hater. You've been a hater of his for a long time.
Let's just say I prefer when my wide receivers they get open, and that is not something that George Pickens typically does often or very well because it can't. Look at the offense right now. We had Kenny Pickett last year. He gone. He's now the backup to the Eagles because he didn't want to compete. Enter in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Both quarterbacks are ones who flamed out with their most previous teams. So probably still a QB upgrade, but it might not be that much better. So it's really hard. Let's also remember that division is also really difficult. They go up against really good teams. 6 games out of the year. That's tough. And Pickens has a lot of highlight reel catches. You love watching those on SportsCenter, but it really means he can't separate well. And going into this offense, he might not. He's probably going to earn the most targets just because who are they throwing the ball to? It's kind of him and Pat Freiermuth, and that's kind of it. Jalen Warren will probably get a good bump this year, having Russ Wilson there. But it goes to say that if you're not getting open, there's going to be a lot of times where the coach is not going to be very happy. They're going to try to force feed the ball to him. And I don't know if that's going to happen every single time, if he's going to come down with it. Yeah, he's good at contested catches, but that's because he has to. He has to be to get his value. He's not going to be able to be one of these guys that gets the 130 plus targets and high efficiency. And he's going to be like maybe 120 targets and 70 catches maybe. just because that his catches are just that much harder than a lot of the other ones. Because the mere fact that he can't really separate. You know, he's going as a wide receiver 25 in Dynasty, which it kind of shows a little bit of upside. Like I can see the upside with a high touchdown year. But from the way I do fantasy, the way I build my dynasty roster, I want these guys earning targets, and I want these guys to be able to separate. You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all these great route runners. Those are the guys I'll end up pushing my chips in more, and I'm a little more hesitant with the other guys. So I guess you guys disagree. You guys are okay with George Pickens?
I'll let you go first, Chris.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll go. I'm not like, in a sense, like, I'm not like super like put off by George Pickens personally. The draft
Apparently,
pick
I
of
hate the man.
yeah, apparently the draft pick of Wilson, the extra wide receiver, is not great for his value. But I have a weird feeling he's gonna finally like find some way to anchor himself in the offense. There's a reason why they've kept him up till now, why they keep trying to put him in that position. I'm gonna hope it's gonna be. I mean, I'm also hoping for most of the people on the Steelers to have some sort of improvement. There's a lot of people that I feel. I mean, we talk about the Falcons having like horrific like players. The Steelers are in a very similar situation, in my opinion. So I wouldn't say I'm like hard selling George Pickens at the current moment. If the offer is good enough, sure. But I'm not looking to like, oh, let me add him to this trade so I can get this guy or whatever. Like a slight upgrade. I'm willing to, unless I'm like upgrading massively, I'm not looking to like sell him too hard. What do you think, Joe?
I agree with Matt a little bit that I'm not the biggest fan. I also agree. We're in agreement that I don't think he separates well, but he is still the wide receiver one. He still demands those targets. And I think I'm more inclined to sell George Pickens than I am to sell Michael Pittman. So I'll put it that way. Yeah, I'd rather have Michael Pittman on my team than George Pickens. If I could get someone else that separates better than George Pickens, sign me up. I kind of agree with you, Matt, but I wouldn't sell him just because I don't think he's a terrible player. I just think he does have separation issues, which cause concern. So I'll leave it at that. I somewhat agree with you.
If you want to find someone that separates better than George Pickens, you don't have to look very far. There's a lot of them. But all right, let's go into Dynasty Holds to finish out the show here. Joe, who is your Dynasty Hold?
All right, I might be drinking some copium right now.
Oh no!
But my Dynasty Hold is Justin Fields. If you have Justin Fields on your team right now, you are not getting anywhere near what he was valued at last year for him right now. And I don't think you should panic and try to unload him now. I think it's going to be a QB battle there. I don't think it's clear-cut Russell Wilson's show, especially if Russell Wilson shows signs of struggling. I could easily see Justin Fields getting some starts this year. And I do think it's Justin Fields' show down the line. If he can continue to learn from Russ and just build his rapport with some of the players over there, I would be holding on to him. I wouldn't be looking to buy him. I also wouldn't be selling him on his lowest point, which is right now. I would just be holding on to him, and hopefully there are better days for Fields owners.
Now, are you holding him to eventually sell him, or are you holding him in hopes that he's going to be relevant again?
Personally, a little of both. I'm not holding him just to sell. I also don't need to as you know, my team is.
Well, you have 30,000 quarterbacks.
I have almost all the quarterbacks, so I don't need him, which is a nice. It also puts me in a nice position where I can hold him comfortably. But even if I had 3 other quarterbacks, I'd still be just holding him in hopes that he does become relevant to either sell or start. It's your choice once he's relevant. But right now, with his value so low, and you paid so much more to get him, and he was worth so much more just a year or two ago. Just that terrible landing location of that trade just plummeted his value, and I wouldn't be panic selling I would just be holding strong on him.
Gotcha. All right, Chris, who are you holding?
I'm holding Baker Mayfield. Nothing like too insane or crazy about it. QB, super flex. Nothing too like, oh my god, wow, like that's such a shocker. The real impact here is that like he's finally solidified as a quarterback. If you've had him for ages and you never dropped him after all of the horrific signs that you have had to go through, now's the time. You keep him, you hold him. You're on this train ride for the foreseeable future. I ain't promising you like Patrick Mahomes levels of play. Like this is not like a QB1, QB2 sort of deal, but it is very, very valuable to have a guy, especially with how perhaps you got him either through a trade or you drafted him, right? He finishes the QB10 last year. That's kind of crazy. If you were lucky and you have like a top 3 QB and you have also the QB10, that's insane. You're set. Enough said.
Yeah, I was very wrong about Baker last year.
I know
As
someone
Joe
who
has
was
pointed
right.
out a few times. Yeah, Mr. Capozzi over there was hit it pretty good. I think he even exceeded your expectations too.
Yeah,
So,
he did better than what I thought, but I did have him way higher in my rankings than
oh yeah,
you
yeah.
and Richie.
I had him buried. I had him completely buried.
Yeah,
He was like underneath the football field.
anyone throwing the ball to Mike Evans is going to have a decent season. Guy's insane.
Except for Tom Brady that last season, because I had him and he sucked.
Well, he
Well,
was
that was
very old.
Terrible.
Yeah, he
was
was
very,
very,
very
very
old.
old.
Yeah. I'll give it to him.
Washed.
I'll let go get one. All right. My hold here is going to be, I alluded to it earlier, Jordan Addison on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Justin Jefferson just signed a colossal contract extension with the Vikings, but it's also a good spot to have a wide receiver too on that team. Having the best wide receiver in football running routes with you, a lot of the concentration is going to be on him. Now, Jordan Addison came out swinging in his rookie season, 10 touchdowns. I think it was like 800 yards. Um, was really good. A lot of that came with Justin Jefferson out. But to me, that's not bad because he stepped up. It shows he can have the potential. When the wide receiver one on the team is down, he can step up in a big way and make those plays. Now, right now, brand new quarterback, JJ McCarthy, not really proven. Some people are really high on him. Some people are more like me, and kind of tempering expectations. Rookie wide receiver coming out of a run first offense in college, didn't really need to throw the ball that much. So it leaves a little bit of a question mark for me. But Jordan Addison alone, if you try to sell him now, you're not going to get him for what he could be with everything else going on. There's too many potentially negative things going against him with new quarterback, not the wide receiver one on his team. TJ Hawkinson's coming back off of injury. It's not a great time to sell him. If you're looking to sell him, maybe wait till mid-season or so. But I also think he's going to have a little bit more value in years to come. So that's why I'm holding him. Don't panic on him just because of all those other things. He's a wide receiver 2 on his team, and he's probably going to be a wide receiver 2 on your dynasty roster, which again is not a bad thing to have some of these guys that might not win you the week, but guys that are going to put up consistent points every week. You do need those guys on your team too, especially if you're contending, because it gives you a little bit more of a baseline. So every week, okay, I'm probably going to get about like 10 points from this guy. I can play upside players in another way. But the way you construct your roster, you got to pay attention to that stuff too. So I'm going to hold Jordan Addison. What do you guys think?
I kind of agree. You're definitely not going to get what you want from him right now. A lot of the reports that I've seen are all sell on Jordan Addison. I've seen a couple that have him as as a sell. But as someone who traded him to you for a first, and you're probably not getting a first for him right now, yeah, I would definitely. It's almost like you're not getting what you put into him back right now, and I don't think I'd be panicking yet. He's very young. I don't think his situation gets any better the next couple of years, but eventually it will, and you don't need to panic sell.
I mean, personally, right? If the JJ McCarthy situation ends up being like the Joe Burrow or like a Tua or like a Mahomes or something, where they can leverage 2 wide receivers, all of a sudden you're looking good, right? It's fantastic. So I don't mind holding here. As Joe said, you're not going to get like the first for him anymore. Probably you're probably going to get like a second or something. And in reality, like that's not really what you want for someone so young that could have that high upside. I'd hold him. I agree.
Yeah, I think he presents the chance to become a value next year in Dynasty. So don't sell him on a low. Don't You could try to buy him, but I feel like the person who has him is probably not going to want to get rid of him just because the value is not there. And for what they, like you said, Joe, what they put in for him. So, but yeah, that is it. We did our buy, sells, and holds on today's show. Thank you for tuning in. Again, please like the show. Leave us a comment below if you agree or if you have other guys. Maybe we didn't mention someone. We only did 9 guys, so I'm sure everyone has their own opinions on other players they might like to buy, sell, and hold. If you have any deals done with any of these guys, please comment a picture of those. We'd like to see kind of where the market is on some of these guys. So definitely check that out. We're going to be coming back with more episodes. We're getting into crunch time. Rankings are being worked on. We're going to start doing some other redraft type shows, some strategy shows to get you ready for draft season, look at some of the news and where we kind of stat some of these guys out. So definitely stay tuned to the show. We really appreciate it. Leave us a review on anywhere you get podcasts. We're everywhere. And that is it. We'll let everyone go. Enjoy the rest of your day. So long, everyone.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.